information. But yes, go ahead.
No problem. Please tell us about this
Yeah.
company in China, because for me, I heard first time this name. Even I was not aware of this company,
Oh,
Pan An. Yeah.
I see. Yeah. Well, Ping An was not the biggest insurance company in China. The
Mm.
biggest one was China Life.
Okay.
But instead of just competing directly with China Life,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Ping An diversified.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of selling purely insurance packages, they manage this very important um, sector in China. One, because of course we have a huge population, and secondly, there are never enough doctors, and
Mm-hmm.
hospitals are always very full.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that they captured was to develop an online consultation uh, service for those who are not seriously ill. I mean, we go to see a doctor sometimes for a more minor issue because we were not sure, and that it means that we don't need the hospitalization. We're not in a serious condition,
Mm-hmm.
and they developed this online service so that people can actually dial in and consult the doctor online.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, with their platform, they can even do it via texting.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if I go to the search engine in China called Baidu, and I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to ask about a certain illness, immediately some specialists will pop up and they can answer you uh, online like this. So this is the service that Ping An is trying to provide.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, um, as a string of services related to healthcare, you are able to choose many things out of their packages. So that's one.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have cars, car insurance.
Mm-hmm.
When you purchase a car and when you have to renew your insurance, all you have to do is go to their platform and click and pay. That's it. You don't have to go in person. You don't have to call anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Or they also have services that they provide to the car dealers. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, if I bought a car at Toyota,
Mm-hmm.
so once I buy this car, every year Toyota will send me a reminder that my insurance is due when,
Mm-hmm.
and I can just speak to the person at Toyota, and that person can take care of everything for me, and all I have to do at the end is to pay.
Mm-hmm.
Again, online payments. So in a few minutes, everything is done. So this is the trend in China. Really, it's not only for Ping An, but for many other things.
Mm-hmm.
And Ping An also offers house insurance,
Mm-hmm.
um, educational insurances. So basically, you name it, network, if you like. Yes. And the thing is, they definitely have a very good knowledge of the regulations and the rules so that they are able to give uh, advice to their clients when it is needed. So this is the part of insurance, but they have also uh, invested into the finance sector. For
Okay.
example, I bought an 8-year plan with them.
Mm-hmm.
uh, I have to invest a certain amount of money, but at the end of 8 years, I can get something on top of my investment. Very simple, something very simple, but once again, it's taken care of. And they have a very good reputation for this part of their business. Yeah. So
in percentage, how much you will get after 8 years?
Let me see. It's within 10% return. It's not much, but it's better than putting it in the bank. No, I can't remember actually, but it's around that.
Annually or 10% in 8 years? 1% annually?
Oh no, around 10% per year. Because they will use your money to, of course, they have a huge pool and then they invest. Yeah. So it's not too bad. I mean, it's better than putting it in the bank.
Yeah. True. Okay.
Yes.
And how about this telemedicine?
Ping An. Yes. I'm sorry, telemedicine?
Yeah, I was reading one article where they are, doing something called telemedicine. What is that telemedicine?
Yes. Yes, that's actually the service they provide to people who dial in or go online to their platform, and they can consult a doctor directly. So they have a network of doctors with different specialities. And I think they have a duty, sort of, every day there will be somebody who will take these calls. And this will avoid people having to go to a hospital. Most of the hospitals over China are overloaded anyway. So this can actually relieve and release space for those who really need the hospital services. Because Ping An, they realized that at least about 20 to 30% of the people who have to go to the hospitals, they don't have a very serious issue. So dialing in is actually an option that is convenient for the patient, and it also alleviates the burden of the hospitals. And for the medicine, the doctor can actually suggest a prescription, and the person who needs it can go to a pharmacy or sometimes a Chinese medicine to get the medication. So it's very convenient. Yeah. Yeah. And Ping An is a very modern company. Yeah. Unlike the traditional, what we call SOE, state-owned enterprises, they're very modern.
Good. Okay, so I just wanted to know if any of our colleague wants to ask any question to you. Maybe Chris, maybe Louis, especially on this topic of Ping An.
Well, what I was kind of curious about is in relation to the current work assignments, Carol, have you been able to apply some of the thinking around extracting the codependencies, just in terms of even this week's assignments in terms of your own business? I was curious about that. I haven't gotten through the entire week's work yet, but again, the theory that's being reviewed in relation to ecosystems and, some of the comments from the professor suggesting, you need to influence those dependencies. I'm thinking, well, but they're not all ours. How, what strategies or what mechanisms do I have to or what do I need to develop in order to be able to influence, right? That's some of the thinking I've had, not specifically
Yeah.
about this account, Carol. I appreciate you sharing that. I'm just trying to look at how do I apply some of the thinking from this week's work, from this week's assignments thus far, and how might you apply what we're learning
well,
to this example?
yeah. Well, I think that's the gist of why we're here, to be able to apply what we learn to our own sectors. I would say, as far as my industry is concerned, I have trying to picture how I could apply the theories that we've been picking up along the way to actually define a new way of running and managing the airport. I mean, during our last conversation, I think one of the key takeaways for me was that it confirms somehow my previous thinking of not investing into things that we're not good at, but to focus on our own expertise and draw other experts to join so that we are able to offer something that is able to meet the needs of our consumers in a more round scenario. So, for example, Ping An, they have this influence really to draw experts like doctors, like maybe insurance regulators who can explain things to their customers. They are able to draw financial sector experts so that they can put plans together for people who'd like to save some money. You know, all that together, they can found a very good platform to meet the needs of many who, I would say, to a certain extent, didn't even know they had this need. So,
right. So again, this back to
also
ecosystem.
Confirms my second thought all along when I was in this business. Yes, actually, you know what? It confirms my other thought of creating needs. You know, in marketing, there is this section of creating a need. Yes. So if you don't have it, people won't think about it. But when you have it, that might be a good idea, you know, that sort of thing. Because in aviation, many airports have the same thing. But how can we be better than others, you know? And that's where this creativeness have to be kicked in. And I believe that what we've learned so far is able to get me thinking, once again, to transform an airport into a platform. Because you have many services in an airport. Those that are seen by the passengers and those that are not seen by the passengers. Because there are a lot of behind the scenes things to make the entire airport run and work seamlessly. That's, you know, the key word today. So all these players have to come together. Yeah. And I think as far as example, our airport was the #1 in the world in terms of passenger load in 2020. So that is a draw. That is an influence. We are a Skytrax 5-star terminal. That is an influence. And we also just got awarded for the Skytrax COVID-19 5-star rating. Then we are a very safe airport. So these are influences that can draw interested parties to join our platform to offer services. But Chris, I think the most important influence, and we have data that many people want, especially in the retail, commercial, F&B sectors. So I think we have to find, as Dr. Ashia said, what is the value? And that would be the influencing factor that can draw. And I think for airports, it's the data that is the number one influencer, because we have tons of data. And these are things that they need so that they can decide if they want to work in this airport, how do they want to work in this airport, what type of goods they want to sell in this airport, etc., etc., etc. And of course, I mean, through our airport program platforms, if they can join, then they may actually have data of the passenger themselves, because through the consent of the passenger, they may be able to capture, all these. If we're talking about an airport that has a passenger throughput of about 7,000, let me see, how in 2019 we were 74 million passengers. I mean, even 1% is quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So that is our influence. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I understand it so far.
Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to. I know we're only halfway through the course, but I am trying to skip ahead a little because of business needs, right? To actually shape what we're calling service. The program I'm in is called Service Advantage, and I mean, we have a web presence and such. There's lots of information about it, but it's Service Advantage 1.0 today. What I'm charged with for Ricoh Americas is figure out, is 2.0 going to look like and beyond. So I'm already trying to, my thinking, I'm trying to skip ahead to suggest, okay, where are the investments we need to make? Because you mentioned platform, Carol. You mentioned data being the number one influencer in your aviation ecosystem. And the questions that come to mind are, okay, so what do I have to offer as a platform? And if I don't have a platform, is that what I need to invest, right? So the strategic takeaway I'm trying to get to is, where do we need to invest to build capabilities is what comes to my mind. I don't know if it's about building capabilities or, do we partner better? It's build, partner, or buy, right? It's going to be one of those to suggest that we have a platform that others will want to be a part of. And then that's, of course, where the marketing piece comes in. I agree with you. How do you market that? Yeah, there is an offer here that you didn't really know you needed, right? There's this implicit need, and then we have to help uncover that. And what I'm having difficulty with right now is what are some of the criteria? What are the requirements for us as leaders to assess what is it that I actually need to make a difference? And to me, I think it's this platform notion that allows you to build an ecosystem around the platform, which is really what I picked up last week and this week. And when we look at your example, where you are today in China, is what is that platform to get access to the data? Do you have a platform? Is that something you're going to need to go to the leadership with and say, hey, we need to make investments in some of our online presence. We need to build a portal, or we need to build a consolidated data platform for which our carriers, our service company, maybe the partner you bring in to do service, so you guys get out of the break fix, right? You get out of the ground crew and get a partner in. How do you connect? What's the connective tissue? And today, obviously, it's technology, IT related stuff. Obviously, that's we know that's the answer. It's got to be technology. What I'm not getting enough of yet is, what is the criteria for which I'm going to use to assess how to execute or build or deliver this, an ecosystem. So I still got to get through the rest of this week's work to put more thought around that. But that's the part that I'm really trying to take away from this is, well, what's the assessment criteria? What are the questions we should be asking? And I'll be honest, yet another example of Apple this week versus BlackBerry and versus others. Like, I work very closely with BlackBerry, and it wasn't all of a sudden they were gone. They made decisions in their strategy because I was a partner. They made decisions in their strategy that led them down this path. They were so arrogant that they didn't believe that Apple would have a security platform or environment for which businesses and IT would allow Apple to become the default corporate product. I mean, I literally was in strategic meetings with them in the channel because I was a channel partner. Well, how do we build the channel? Well, no business is going to want to take on the Apple product or the Android operating system because they're not secure. But what they overlooked, it wasn't all of a sudden, it was executives. The executive business users are the ones who said and told IT top down, you need to make this phone work. You need to make this Mac device work on our network, in our environment, for me to use it. They completely, like BlackBerry, completely overlooked the fact that executives could tell IT what to do.
Yeah.
Not that IT was telling them what to do for security. They were.
Yeah.
They were, but the rise and the advent of the cloud and other platforms, BlackBerry's ecosystem eroded because of executive desire.
Actually, I was
Very
thinking.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking one thing, Chris. We have as well Prashant with us, and I would like Prashant to be participate in this. But I'm thinking to create a kind of group among us, and let us take some kind of a real challenge for creating the strategy for uh, our companies. For example, let's take this challenge to work with maybe Carol to make a strategy for their airport business. So where maybe I can contribute, where Chris can contribute, where Prashant can contribute. What we are learning, let's try to implement it. Let's bring it into practical. So by doing this exercise, that once we have this target that we are going to make a strategy for the, let's say, airport, or for a company where Chris is working, or for a company where Prashant is working, and then we start working and taking all the required information what we need to develop the strategy, and then we develop the strategy together, and so that we can make that strategy in working or in practical. So it might help us to understand more about strategy, and it will help maybe the business to grow. uh, this is my idea. What do you think, Prashant, that we can do that part together to develop a strategy for one specific one or two businesses what we are in, so that we can learn from this?
Yeah, so Basila, that's a great point. In fact, I was thinking on similar lines, and when Chris was mentioning the problem statement and the way his understanding of the demise of the BlackBerry business, it really got me thinking why it really went down. But also, if you come to Carol's business, which is a very interesting business, and Carol, if I can take the liberty of just comparing it, what, for example, an airport is, say, hypothetically similar to what Uber is, right? And I am not in the airline industry, so you'll have to pardon my, blue ocean thinking here. But at the end of the day, and I'm just trying to, extrapolate whatever we've learned over the course of the last 4 weeks, is an aircraft passenger the only user you have, right? The reason I'm saying this is, if you look at Uber typically started as an organization which allowed people to utilize their unused asset, which is a car, for moving from point A to point B. Then that business model morphed into something what we would call as, having sort of professional drivers, getting into the game, and people who were literally having cars at their own houses, they got actually sidelined. And then, Uber has then expanded into, I would say, not exactly into transport, but they've moved into food deliveries, or groceries, or aircraft or heli transport, right? So at the end of the day, it's a logistical business, and an individual person is probably not the key point here. So when you're talking groceries, right, or shifting food, so it's definitely logistics, but it's not an individual. And that probably got me blue, ocean thinking here, that for an airport, since you have all the data, is an airline passenger the only customer you can serve? Or potentially you have the database, you have the retailers, probably there's some new lines of business which are entirely unrelated and could come onto what we have the platform. And, at the end of the day, if you're looking at any of these so-called platform businesses, the commonality here is that there is a central pool of a customer who has multiple needs across various different parameters, right? Or facets. It could be a mobile phone, it could be food, it could be medicine, it could be retail services, so on and so forth. And the way the platforms are moving, they are not really differentiating who the end customer is. It could be an individual, it could be an enterprise. So if you look at, Amazon or Apple, they have enterprise customers, they have individual customers. So to cut the long story short, Mustafa, yes, I think we should take one practical example of one of the participants and really get together, because, doing an example and answering sort of a few questions, it's all done in a very controlled way.
Yeah.
But here, we are talking of something which is very, very practical.
Yeah. I think we should take an example of.
Yes, I agree. Actually, this is, yeah.
Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah. Sorry, Mustafa, go ahead. Okay. I thank you, Prashant. I think it is very valid what you say, and I think this course has really inspired me to think in the way that you just mentioned. And in fact, this week in the 9 steps of is to know who your customers are. So we know those that we face up front, but what about those who are potentials but we never thought about? And this platform can actually bring in these potential partners, I would say, to us, to offer services to our end users, which is it could be the airlines, because airlines are our #1 customers. Their customers are our indirect customers. So what does our customer want? So that is the question. And obviously, if we are able to diverse services just through our app, for example, our airport app, that could attract many passengers to use our gateway. And even we may start dreaming of having loyal customers once again, because loyalty has not existed for a long time. But once it's like Apple, it's very practical. Everyone is very used to it, and they are able to create loyal customers, because these customers, I think the switching cost for them is the habit. It's not learning another system. So yeah, that's the highest switching cost. When you're used to something, you don't want to try something else when it is good. I think if I'm able to apply what we've learned, I can be discovering many things that can be useful for the development of the airport. Because once again, international traveling is still at the stalemate, and and we all believe that it's not going to end soon. So we need to find other means to keep that big boat afloat. So that's why I was thinking about the data thing, because the data is very expensive. And also, it can actually bring in a lot of parties that never thought that they could work together with an airport, because the traditional way is that you must come in and have a physical brick and mortar shop, a space to sell things. But this does not have to be how it is anymore, because, for example, I'm thinking, if our APP is able to provide this service, because the industry is now thinking of the passenger's journey starts from their home and not when they arrive at the airport or from their office. So it's not at the airport. The passenger's journey start from home or office or hotel, okay, to airport and then to the gate. That's the passenger's journey. So if our APP is able to provide, number one, when you click onto it, at this current time, from where you are to the gate will take how long? Then you know, oh, if I leave now, I will have time to have a bite, or I will have time to maybe buy a little gift from my family, that sort of thing. Okay, so they are able to control their time. I think that is the gist of it. A lot of passengers in China still, they come very late, and they are always rushing. And sometimes, unfortunately, they miss their flights. But if we are able to tell them, then perhaps they are able to manage their time, but I still want a bite. What can I do? I can pre-order, and the food will be brought to your departure gate. So these are needs that passengers may not have thought of, but they will find it their time. But at the same time, we're meeting their needs. So, these are the things that has crossed my mind as I was reading the material, as I was thinking how to apply it to my business.
True, Carol. It's the same thing that previously we were not
People
thinking.
joining.
Yeah, we were not thinking that if I need to take a cab, that my normal understanding was, okay, I'll go out from my home and reach to the road, and then
Yes.
whatever the cab will come, I will stop it and I will
Yeah.
go. But now, when people understood that no, they can call a cab
Yes.
through Uber, and the cab will be waiting on the road for him or her, so they are doing it exactly. So what you are saying, it is
Yes.
absolutely true.
Yes.
It is
Yeah.
definitely it's required to explore those things. So I would put a question to Chris
Yeah.
now. I want Chris to answer this question if it is possible. Chris, what are those the big companies who are creating strategies, because you are in service in kind of consultancy and service providing business? What are those companies who are providing services for strategy development, like McKinsey and those things? What are their steps, and how they are creating the strategies for other organization? In the same model, how we can as a group set up a team of our colleagues to create a strategy for one business, so that we all can learn from it.
Well, I'll say that I think the coursework is intended for us to create the strategies for our businesses, right? For our interests, right? And using the use cases,
Exactly.
which is why they have so many examples,
Yes.
right? They have so many examples, and they're often going back, it seems, to the same well for the same examples. It's the same bucket of water, right? It's always Apple or Uber or something related to the consumer.
Yeah. Yeah.
My initial gut response is what I get value out of is how each of us are thinking about what we've learned and how we apply. So how Carol's talking about it for her own business. I'll be honest, Mustafa, you know, looking at only one organization is to me yet just another use case. Like I'm being honest. It's just like we're going to have another use case that happens to be one of our companies. What I value is one's perception or interpretation of the theory, right? How do I look at using it? What's my perspective in adopting it? That's where I get value out of this type of discussion. It's not about, and that's just, again, my personal perspective, because each of us do need to take away what we've learned, but also the context for which we've learned. So that's why I like this idea of the peer discussion, is how are my peers out there in the industry in each of their sectors, in their own ecosystems, we'll call them, maybe not even industries anymore, but in your ecosystem, how are you looking at using what we've learned? And I think today's dialogue with Carol has given me a good sense of that, which I appreciate. That's where I'm coming from. So that's my perspective. Yeah. And so Mustafa, I'm not keen on picking up and working on just one and then applying it, you know, in terms of yet another use case. Unfortunately, I think I'm already doing that in the assignments, and yes, it is structured, and that's the intent of the learning. I'm already doing that for the couple of hours I put into the class. What I'm not getting is the value or the context that from the lectures or from the videos that says, how do I think critically about what I've learned? That's what I like about the dialogue here. Mustafa, if you want to take it that direction that you recommended, please do. I won't find myself participating in that, only because of time and time management. I'll be honest.
Absolutely fine.
Okay, so I'll just share that with you.
There is no issue.
Yeah.
It's only, my point is just to enhance the learning. If we are missing, for example, until now, I could not understand how I can replicate those concepts what I have until now. I have learned from this course in B2B scenarios. It is all business to consumer kind of things. Everything we are talking about.
I realize.
Yeah, we are talking about a lot of customer. Like in today's example of Carol, it's absolutely fine for her business. But the thing is, again, there is a lot of people that they are collecting data. That's true for their business. But how about if a company dealing with, let's say 5, 6, 7, 10 customers, and their 80% or 90% is business with those major customers, how they can do their business better, how they can develop their strategies.
Sure. Yeah. So again, I'll go back to your other question though, Mustafa, you asked about other consulting agencies. So in my setup of Service Advantage 2.0 to our executives, I created 2 slides just to position what I'm doing. And I put in there, Ernst & Young, KPMG, Deloitte, Kinsey & Company, Accenture, Manhattan Group, right? The Manhattan Consulting Group. They're all big US, Canada, North American based consulting, and they're in Europe as well. So those are a few of the names for which I've looked at to say, what do they offer? What are their models? What are they, how are they approaching some of their initial client engagements from what I can find? I'm not working with any of them. I have worked with Deloitte in the past and Accenture in the past on specific projects. But they're the big consulting companies when it comes to mergers, acquisitions, right? Which is often a byproduct or a product or an output of a strategy, right? The strategy may be that you need to look at mergers or an acquisition in order to execute your strategy, right? You may have to buy a customer base or a capability or a platform, or in this case, buy into an ecosystem, right? Which could be the strategy that you take, the value you take away. So when I look at B2B, so I have the same criticism of the course. It's very, as we talked about last week, it's very consumer centric. Carol, and I'm not sure, Rico, what industry you're in, but Prashant, you know, if you look at also what I think I mentioned last week, third box thinking. So Carol, if you ask your carriers, what do their customers care about? What's important to them? Then you work backwards. You'll then look at and say, does my app,
right,
or does my portal offer that customer experience that you talked about? And I love the way you're thinking, which is, Mustafa, I think the B2B part that we can take away is, have you mapped your customer journey yet? Have you done that exercise? What is my customer's journey from the time of need for a product to the time I can manufacture, produce, deliver, and install? Right? That just, you know, Carol, when you brought that up, I was thinking, oh, we got to map the customer journey.
Yeah.
So we understand what the business need is that they have. So that's one part that I took away from today is I kind of forgot about that. And we really need to do it.
Yeah.
So I'll say this week, as I'm developing my own strategy, I'm applying the 3C model, which we did not talk about in this class. I got it from my MBA and from other experience, is the 3C model. And I'm interviewing 2 robotics, one chief marketing officer for a robotics company and 1 VP of service later this week, to review the 3 C's, which is the customer. So who are they trying to service and what's important to them? My competition. So why has my partner selected the competition? What do they offer that we don't? What appeals to them about my competitor that I need to know about? And then the company, the 3rd C, which is Rico. So what do we offer or need to offer or don't offer? What do we bring that's of value to them? Why are they dealing with me now? And how could I earn more of their business? So I'm going to have a conversation with these executives who are managing businesses, who are in service to other businesses. And I'm going to be asking about the 3C model this week in the half hour that I spend with them to inform my strategy. So in essence, Carol, it's not a customer journey mapping, but it's a strategic customer interview, client partner interview, to allow me to understand the customer and the suppliers, right, of the services that they pursue. And then how do I, you know, what does my ecosystem start to look like? And I've got that set up for Thursday and for Friday. So I just wanted to share that as a mechanism, Mustafa, of saying, okay, how am I going to apply what I'm learning into my B2B world? Well, I'm going to go ask some questions around the ecosystem for which my partner is trying to build. They're trying to build a service network. They're trying to build a product and build a company. What's important to them? So that's just an example.
Oh, thank you for sharing.
Chris, if I can
share that.
Well, Chris, if I can probably add here, it's a great observation here. You know, one thing which I'm realizing when I was hearing you, and I think it's very, probably this model, especially from a B2B perspective, is the rise of what we call as the subscription model, right? And that has become a key enabler in sort of being the creation of an ecosystem or a platform. So whether we may talk it in a B2C basis on a, you know, on an Amazon Prime basis or on a Netflix basis, but if I look at a B2B, you know, the way most of the IT companies have started operating, right? You typically subscribe to certain services, whether it's an Adobe or, you know, it's as simple as, you know, the Microsoft's subscription licenses or AWS subscription licenses. Or if you look at, you know, Apple is more and more, if you look at any of their models now, though they've sold all the hardware, but at the end of the day, they are moving to a subscription model where they have the Apple One, you know, they have the other services where you put in a few dollars and you lock in the customer. Probably, and I don't think we've covered in that course. And I also have a few questions regarding this course, exactly like you, Chris, because I believe that probably it's not a very holistic way we are looking at it. But I think one of the key missing items here definitely is B2B, and definitely I think a subscription model where you are not having capital assets being acquired upfront but being paid on a subscription basis is what going to be a key enabler going down the line.
So a monetary model, Prashant, to me,
Yes.
is an outcome of the strategy.
Exactly.
Right? Building a monetary model is an outcome, which would then lower the barriers to adoption to your product or to your service. Right? That's where the subscription. So you're jumping to what a solution could be, no doubt. A subscription model for B2B may help lower barriers, increase adoption, get them on your network, or get them on your ecosystem. The question is the subscription model right for your business? I know it's a trend and we should recognize it.
Yes.
I actually believe in it. I'm selling subscription for field services on a fixed rate per robot per year, right? And it includes a certain amount of service and time to keep those robots up and running annually. And we're building it like a subscription model under an annualized or monthly fee. I pay, they pay me $12 a month per robot, sort of thing, right? And they don't have to pay time and materials. They don't have to pay you, right? They get the service. So I definitely see that. Yes, I agree with you. It is a trend that's in there for B2B, and to me, it's an outcome of strategy. So what is the strategy, or what is the desired outcomes for which you're going to build a strategy around, which is obviously maybe it's increasing your annuity business, right? Maybe it's about cash flow. So Mustafa from manufacturing, maybe it's about upfront cash flow as you're managing your company. I need to get paid when I'm buying materials because the bill of materials is expensive. Right, so you may look at your monetary models. You might have a split. You have a buy-in or one-time fee to get involved, and then you pay per part at a discount after, that sort of thing when you produce it. But anyway, so I'm rambling on now. But Rico, did you have something before we wrapped up? Because I do have a call at the top of the hour.
Sure. Just to add to what Chris mentioned, 3C. It really the use of the framework really depends on what's your problem, Mustafa. Is it a business situation framework? Is it new market entry, new product, new business, how to grow? Company position assessment. Then you can use 3C. I usually use 3C plus P. So the P stands for product. So the nature of product. Whether it's commodity good or easily differentiable good, identify the complementary goods, the substitute products, and the product life cycle. And there's a couple of frameworks that I usually use as well. Let's say for capacity change framework, I use a demand, supply, and cost of expansion framework. For profitability framework, we usually use revenue and cost framework. So it really depends on the issue that you want to address. But I think the course teaches us on how to position the issue and use what kind of framework that we think might solve the issues. That's my takeaway from this course. Yep.
Which one?
Oh, sorry.
Right,
it depends on your.
Yeah,
it depends on your.
There's
issue.
so many models.
Yeah. Well, it depends on what Mustafa tries to address. Is it about new market entry? Is it about new product?
Yeah.
Then you can use 3C plus P, which is customer, company, competition, and product. Yeah. So it really depends on the issue. Is it a merger and acquisition fit framework? Then you can use a fit framework, whether you compare company A, company B, which one is fit with your issue that you want to address.
Right. And what I hope we get by the end of the course, Rico, is the right critical questions that we need to be asking ourselves and of our organization to then assess, right? What is the business problem I'm trying to solve, which is, Rico, what you're asking, right?
Yep.
What's the business problem I need to solve for? And then what models do I need to use to assess my current state, my desired state, and the gap?
Yep.
Then the strategy is to address the gap.
Yes.
That's how I look at it. From a B2B perspective, that's how I look at it.
Yep.
Where are we today? Where do I want to be? Right? And then what do I need to do to get there? Right? So, but again, assessing where we are today, it could be 5 forces. That could work. Like, I know it's old, but it could work. But maybe the power model we talked about last week, maybe that's the right model. But I don't know.
I don't
know which one to apply yet.
I have a question, Chris. I know where I am and I know where I want to go, and I know how to go there. But the problem is all the dots are not connecting. For example, I will just give you an example. In my real life environment, we are manufacturer, as I told you before, for industrial equipment. We want like the market share about 15%, because this is what we believe it's a fair share from the market. Okay, this is what we want, that we want our share from the market. Now the problem is how to get that share. Is 80% is very clear how to get that share. The only problem at this time is because of COVID, the pie is very small now. The market, the total value of the market currently is shrinked a lot, where we are facing the problems. Uh, let's say before we were having a market size about 10 million. Now the market size has shrunk to 3 or 3.4 million, and that is not helping us to grow. So this is out of our control, that how we can take the market at its previous position before COVID. That is the challenge that I'm facing. And
So
yes,
I would
go ahead.
challenge you, Mustafa, by saying, why is that the only market you're looking at?
Because this is what capabilities we have as of today.
Right,
Yes.
but could your capabilities of a manufacturer be applied outside of the oil market,
Yeah.
oil and gas? Could it be
Yes.
applied outside of oil and gas?
Yes.
Ask those questions, and then build a strategy to go get what would equal 15% share of 15 million or 10 million,
Mhm.
and go find your 15% potentially across other markets. That's the real strategy. That's the real blue ocean creative thinking, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you go get
Yeah.
more of less? Well, go
Yeah.
find more of where there is more, where there is opportunity. I'll just challenge you with that before I have to drop for a client call. Is
Yeah.
think that, okay, COVID, market shrinkage, I know I need to grow. I know what my capabilities are. Are those capabilities of value in other segments of the marketplace or other industries, if we want to call it that? And do you have the opportunity to make products for them using your current capabilities? That's how I'd close off on that, because that's a B2B strategy, right? Which is how do I use what I have to create something new or different? So anyway,
Yeah.
good chat today. I would just challenge you that maybe you need to look beyond your
Yeah.
borders.
Yeah. Sure. Thank you everyone
Okay.
for joining us.
Sorry guys, you
Hopefully
guys can
we'll meet
continue
again.
if your time. Yeah,
Oh,
if your
good.
time permits, you guys continue, but I do
Yeah.
need to drop. Thank
No, I
you.
think we have already
Okay.
1 hour.
Bye, Chris.
Bye.
Bye guys.
Bye.
Bye everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye
We'll
bye.
meet next week again. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah.